Live from the pitch pad in New York City. Get ready to unleash your inner entrepreneur with Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the Shark Tank, this is the place to be to discover how to turn your pitch into reality. Fasten your seatbelts, pitch stars, because the spotlight is on you and we are about to make success happen. On this episode of Pitch Live,
she interviewed me. And she was very rude, and I couldn't understand what was going on. So I went up there. I said, "What's the matter with you?" She said, "You're a fraud. You're a fraud." "What do you mean?" Well, I contacted the Air Force headquarters. They said, "Don't think about the book. About anything about your program." I said, "Just a minute." I went to my briefcase and pulled an Air Force pamphlet 30-35. It's the one I used at 5 Air Force bases and 27,000 people to develop the aerobics concept. It was quite on the 12-minute pace. All that was done. And she said, "Can I take this?" I said, "Sure, take it. I'll be back in a few minutes." And came back in a few minutes. "Can you be on the Today Show tomorrow?"
Get ready for Pitch Live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Pitch Live. I'm your host, Amy Summers, founder and president of Pitch Publicity and Vox. I'm also a hard-working entrepreneur who is passionate about helping you reach success in any area of your life. And I know that is possible after decades of experience in perfecting the pitch and enhancing communication skills, which is why I'm here today and joined by Dr. Kenneth Cooper. Welcome, Dr. Cooper.
Thank you, Amy. A pleasure to be with you.
Now, I've actually known Dr. Cooper for a long time, way before he knew me. So when I was back in college, I became a fitness instructor. And I went to the Cooper Aerobics Center in Dallas to get certified as one of the very first spin instructors. And I remember I was so impressed with your program, Dr. Cooper, because you had every bike there. Like, you didn't want to be biased towards one type of bike. So I remember we got trained on all the different bikes at that time. And I also, one of the things that I remember about walking onto your campus, I remember seeing this guy jogging. He had like things on his head. And I was like, wow, I felt like I was in a sci-fi movie. You really were doing a lot of research there. I was so impressed with that. I've been a huge fan of yours ever since that experience. And I'm just thrilled that you were willing to come on and do an interview with me today.
Thank you.
Now, for those of you who may not know Dr. Cooper, let me tell you a little bit about him. He literally introduced the word aerobics into our vocabulary, and he pioneered the idea of preventative medicine, getting people moving and focused on health long before jogging, running, or even group fitness classes were a thing. Later, when I launched my publicity agency, Pitch Publicity, Dr. Cooper was actually one of my very first clients by way of Todd Whittorn. You remember Todd? He hired me to help promote your Cooper Complete dietary supplement line. And, Dr. Cooper's influence has just been remarkable. I've enjoyed working with him for more than half a century. His research, writing, and leadership have inspired millions worldwide. His very first book, Aerobics, published in 1968, was a bestseller that started a global fitness movement and has been translated into 41 languages and in Braille. And since then, he has authored 20 books with more than 30 million copies sold. He has trained everyone from U.S. astronauts to the 1970 Brazilian World Cup soccer championship team. And his name has even become synonymous with fitness worldwide. You'll find the Cooper test in Hungary. Coopering is a word that is actually used for jogging in Brazil. And his healthy lifestyle philosophy influenced schools, governments, and even food companies, including a collaboration with PepsiCo that eliminated trans fats from Frito-Lay snacks. And then that also influenced the removal of trans fats from many other snacks across the globe. So now in his mid-90s, Dr. Cooper is still going strong, and he continues to set an example of living the message he's preached for decades. His newest book, Grow Healthier as You Grow Older, lays out the 8 healthy steps of living better, both sooner and later. Dr. Cooper is recognized globally as the father of aerobics and a true pioneer in preventative medicine. And I am just thrilled to have you on the show today, Dr. Cooper.
Thank you very much, Amy.
Now, I'm gonna throw a little curveball at you. We had a curveball earlier, everybody, because we had some tech issues, but I'm gonna throw one more at you today. I'm doing a little bit of an icebreaker this season, and I'm asking my guests to share with us, and this is gonna be hard for you, but share with my audience something that people don't really know about you that's not easy to find in your books or on your bio. What would people be surprised to know about you?
I won the state badminton championship when I was a senior in high school. They don't know about that. I made All-State in basketball, and I won the state championship with the mile run. They got me a scholarship, University of Oklahoma in track, but I think people don't know that I actually placed first in the badminton championship because the other guy beat me. Also placed 101st in the Boston Marathon, 1962. Sounds fantastic. Only 150 people ran it back in those days. So that's things people don't know about me.
Wow, that's great. Well, thank you. Well, let's talk about first just about preventative medicine. It's something that I've really focused a lot of my career on. A lot of my clients are in preventative medicine. They sell dietary supplements or organic foods, and this has kind of been my life work in PR. But I want to go back, and can you tell us a little bit about what it was like in the very beginning? And I know you talk about it a lot in your book about the just the skepticism that was around preventative medicine. Why were so many people skeptical about it, and what kind of barriers did you confront in the early years?
When I was in medical school back in the 50s, University of Oklahoma, we were taught that preventive medicine is a Cinderella of the medical specialty because no profit in health. 54 years ago, when I left the Air Force after 13 years, established my business here in Dallas, and they told me I couldn't make ends meet if all I did was seeing healthy people. So there's a lot of resistance. I go before the Board of Censors in the Dallas County Medical Society because I was doing something as dangerous as treadmill stress testing. I pioneered this in the Air Force, working with NASA, trying to develop a technology that we could we could read electrocardiogram exercising something we didn't have before. So I've done that many times, and I finally proved that's a very important diagnostic tool in preventive medicine. And that is the fact that we can pick up disease early with treadmill stress testing that will mix with the resting EKG. So I had to fight the criticism in the early days, but I just stuck to my guns, and perseverance was the reason I'm still here today, and divine intervention. I'll say that immediately. But now with over 300,000 maximum performance treadmill stress tests, that's the largest in the world in which we have measured fitness by time on the treadmill, not by questionnaire. The big studies trying to follow longevity in patients, they don't do treadmill stress testing to develop fitness, showing fitness. They just ask them a question. What did you do? They give you the answers they think you want. They exaggerate. Sometimes they outright lie. So in our 700 published articles we have in peer-reviewed journals now, based upon scientific fact, we bridge the gap between fadism and scientific legitimacy. The exercise, the practice of medicine. I go into all this in great detail in the book.
I really enjoy your book, and I have to say, Dr. Cooper's book is quite the memoir too. But um, to really know Dr. Cooper and to know his story is to understand longevity. And I'm curious. Longevity is kind of a buzzword now, and we have a lot of people out there saying they're kind of doing all these crazy things like getting in ice buckets and taking tons of supplements. How do you view the buzz on longevity now? Are they off track? Does it aggravate you a little bit?
It's not really totally accepted. There's an article published in a journal of medicine in July. It was a consortium from the world. They had about 20 countries involved in the study. Looked at standard coronary risk factors, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, all these various things. They left out inactivity. Yet the WHO said in October 2022, there are 500 million people worldwide who are totally sedentary, and it costs us $74 billion a year for diseases that could be prevented by eliminating lifestyle. So I, for the first time, I've never had an article published in a journal of medicine, even a letter to the editor. I sent an article into the letter to the editor and said, "You left out something. You left out inactivity." Well, they sent back and they published the article, and I was surprised to see that not only did I have the only complaint about that, but it was a complaint from Iran, a complaint from China, a complaint from Spain about that, because you can't eliminate inactivity. But the classic thing, well, I got a report from the people who published the article in Germany and said, "We apologize to Dr. Cooper for leaving out that very important subject, inactivity being a major risk factor as far as longevity is concerned." But we try to get some facts into predicting longevity. And we have a study involving 100,000 of our patients, 73,000 men, 23,000 women in the study. And we finally got their death certificates and found our people were squaring off the curve. They were living long lives to the fullest and die suddenly over 6 months between the time of the diagnosis and death, not 6 years. But we found they were doing that in advanced ages. Our women were averaging 90.4 years. American is averaging 81 years. And our men were averaging, and not averaging 86.5 years. The American men are averaging 77 years. So our people are averaging 88.6 years, while American people are averaging 10 years less than that. And that's why we rank 47th in longevity among major countries of the world. Too much care, too late. We spend way too much of a health service dollar on desperate measures that often prolongs death, not life, a miserable few days. So we're trying to reverse that trend and educate people because you're not going to make the changes in people's lives by what the government tries to recommend. It's what the people do for themselves. You got to educate them, motivate them. Anything that I recommend, more importantly, you've got to take that stress test because it can predict early coronary disease. We have done, as I said, 300,000 maximum performance treadmill stress tests and 16.1% abnormal equivocal. Only 5% knew they had a problem. So that's 11% of the people coming through this clinic on a daily basis find they have heart disease they didn't realize because the most common first symptom of severe heart disease is sudden death. We're saving lives. Our goal here at the clinic now, we see about 44 patients a day. That's the max for us now. And we do a complete examination from 7 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're ranked 2 behind the Cleveland Clinic. Next 2 is what we do in one day. We're ahead of Duke, Johns Hopkins, and Mayo Clinic on the quality examination we do here. So people begin to realize that this is, I said, the best health insurance and life insurance you can buy, and we can prove that from statistics now. So you've got to get Cooperized. The reason our people are living longer is to get involved in the 8 steps that they can do for themselves. I said it's not the government, not the insurance company, it's not your personal physician, unless he or she is trained in the practice of preventive medicine or now lifestyle medicine. Lifestyle medicine is a new subspecialty in medicine. And it was just started just a few years ago. But they have American Academy of Lifestyle Medicine. You can get certified. You can in preventive and internal medicine or pediatrics, whatever. You now get certified in lifestyle medicine. We're trying to get physicians to embrace that concept. But physicians don't have the concept idea. I don't know how to practice preventive medicine. I wasn't taught anything in medical school about nutrition, about exercise physiology, or stress management. Any things that we pioneered and we concentrate on. They were taught that in medical school. So one of our 4 documentaries is only for physicians, number 1, but to get in the curriculums in medical schools, number 2, and number 3 is promote the prevention series, which we have 2 general documentaries there. One is 22 minutes in length called The Power of Prevention, and the next one is 42 minutes in length, and it's entitled The Power of Prevention, the World Impact of Aerobics. That was released in November 2023 at the Bush Library here in Dallas. And it was picked up by CNN and reporters sent down, not to video, but to interview me. And you can go to that, you go to CNN and type in Cooper exercise, and that interview is still there. The last count we had been downloaded by 729 million people around the world. I've been texting regularly a gentleman from Uzbekistan. I never even heard of Uzbekistan before. What we started as an idea and a concept is now worldwide. And I just say, praise the Lord.
Yes, definitely praise the Lord. You've had an amazing mission here on this earth, getting everyone fit. I want to talk about messaging a little bit because you discuss this in your book. And I remember you talked about, I really enjoyed the chapter that talked about your book Aerobics and how you had a disagreement with the publisher in the beginning about the title, and the publisher won, and it ended up that Aerobics um, became your namesake, really. In the book, you say that you got a lot of opposition from the medical community, but you told them that you wrote the book for the public. What messages over the years has resonated the most with the public? What simple messages have helped to get people inspired to get moving?
Well, that's true. Being a graduate of Harvard School of Public Health, spent 2 years, got a master's in public health, worked at Doctor of Science Physiology. And at first, my colleagues didn't approve of the book because it wasn't at the level of educational promise for a person who graduated from Harvard. I said, I didn't write that for my colleagues. I wrote this for the masses of American people. I know when the manuscript was in press for was in the it was in the Air Force General's office because I had done this following the requirements of the Air Force to publish a book, but it sat on his desk for several weeks because I didn't want to publish it. And I contested that, and I said, all I want to do is to get this out to the public. I said, I don't care if I get any royalties, any money from there. I so believe that this message needs to get out because we can save lives by the millions if we do that. And so if you'll publish this book, let us publish this book, and the Surgeon General of the Air Force has written the forward in the book, that doesn't make any difference, then I will be able to give all of my royalties to the Air Force Aid Society. So I told him that, and they finally released it. I'm glad they did accept that. Let me tell you, if interesting thing happened when the first book was published. I was on I was on a monitor with uh, what was her name now?
Barbara Walters,
Barbara Walters at a block for Amendment there.
the Today Show,
She was
right?
on monitor. Yeah, she was on monitor there in New York. And so, she interviewed me, and she was very rude, and I couldn't understand what was going on. So I walked out there. I said, "What's the matter with you?" She said, "You're a fraud. You're a fraud." "What do you mean?" Well, I contacted the Air Force headquarters. They said, "They don't think about the book about anything about your program." I said, "Just a minute." I went to my briefcase and pulled out Air Force pamphlet 30-35 is the one I used at 5 Air Force bases and 27,000 people to develop the aerobics concept that would fight on the 12-minute pace. All that was done. And she said, "Can I take this?" I said, "Sure, take it. I'll be back in a few minutes." And came back in a few minutes. "Can you be on the Today Show tomorrow?" I bet you can't remember that. Who was the prime person? Who was the host of the Today Show back in 1968? You know who that was?
Well,
Hugh Downs.
you
Hugh
down,
Downs.
and Barbara Walters was the first woman, right?
That's right. And
First
Joe
woman.
Namath, who the baseball player would say. But
Yeah.
by the time I got back to Bantam, I published my first book that had 10,000 requests for the book.
Wow.
That tells you the power of that. And that ex
Do you feel like the Today Show really helped launch that book, the Barbara Walters interview? Did that really help get the word out?
to do what now?
Did the Barbara Walters interview on the Today Show, did that really help catapult the book and get the word
Yes.
out?
Without question, I'll give her credit for that because they really treated me well on the Today Show. It was just a fact. And she brought out what I had been doing and having this massive program that was actually supported by the Air Force. I had the privilege to go to Falls Church, Virginia, a couple of months ago, all the surgeon generals were located, and they were trying to implement lifestyle medicine on all the armed forces. They're finally beginning to realize the importance of that. So that was a thrill. I gave a presentation. Only about 100 people were scheduled to be there, but when they turned out, they opened it to the public. We had about 300 people got turned it online. Interesting thing is that all these surgeon generals were there, and we had a African-American, master sergeant who was a master of ceremony. At the end of my presentation, got a standing ovation, and the master sergeant said this, "Dr. Cooper, that was one of the finest presentations I've ever heard, but what I appreciated more than anything was you're a Christian just like me." I thought, "Praise the Lord, you could be court-martialed for that." But that's the type of impact that we've had. So it's just I can't give God enough credit because I wouldn't be here today with 95% of medical school classes already died. If I didn't have an epiphany at age 29, I wouldn't be here. You've read it in the book. But I medical school, of course, when I was, in high school, outstanding athlete, said before, I made all-state basketball, won the state championship at the mile run, Well, but I missed the state record by only a second. Got a got a track scholarship, University of Oklahoma, and my running weight was 165 to 168 during all those times. But got into medical school, discovered a very important point. Obesity is the most common manifestation of stress. I ate to keep awake at night. I was getting 3 and 4 hours of sleep a night. And so I started gaining weight. I didn't know back in those days that exercise is medicine. Exercise to me was athletics. That's all there was to it. So I kept eating, got the internship, and it got worse. By the time I finished my internship up in Seattle, I had gained up to 204 pounds. And that suddenly, I was totally sedentary there. I had to wait to go back in the military. I'd been deferred from the draft because of the Berry plan. So I had to wait to get into the military to pay them back. And so I was totally sedentary for a period of 6 years. But after that, I decided to go water skiing for the first time in many years up here in North Oklahoma, at Texoma, Oklahoma. About halfway through the course, I got hit with chest pain, 29 years of age. Heart was racing out of my chest. They got me over at the beach. The time I got there, I was hypertense. I found out the next day I was hypertension, pre-diabetic, and all that. By the time I got over there, was the heart rate came back to normal, the chest pain disappeared. So the evaluation next day at the skill-based specialist in San Antonio said, "Doc, the thing wrong with you is you're out of shape." I was, as I said, I was obese, I was hypertense, I was pre-diabetic. I lost that weight within 6 months. For my first marathon a year later, I ran 40 years and 30,000 miles, Boston Marathon twice. All that disappeared. I had planned on leaving Seattle and going to Portland, Oregon to start a residency in ophthalmology. I hadn't planned on being a specialist in preventive medicine. I thought this is a field of medicine sadly ignored. Someone needs to concentrate in that field. And that was the epiphany. It came from God, I'm sure, that I changed my whole career and said, I'm going to go into preventive medicine. I didn't have any idea how difficult it will be because the book came out, 1968. Streets, I said, the street's going to be full of dead joggers. People follow Cooper's method. Cooper's going to
Yeah.
kill more people than Hitler did in World War II. I had a physician. I was speaking at a medical meeting back on the East Coast one time. This is in North Carolina. And the gentleman who didn't appreciate what I was doing, this is the book just came out. And I was sitting in the audience. And I won't tell you what his name was, but he said, "We got Dr. Cooper here today. I want you to tell you that if he put that little softback book of aerobics in his rear pocket, that would probably cushion the foot if he falls and dies of a heart attack." That's before a prestigious medical group. I just sat there and laughed at him when he told me that. A few years later, he came over and said, "I have to admit, Ken, that you were right and I was wrong." I said, "Praise the Lord, you come a long way." Even the Dallas County Medical Society, they tried to run me out of town, tried to take my license away, the Texas State Medical Board, all that. They came to me not long ago. They said, "Dr. Cooper, we will recognize your accomplishments." I said, "What?" This wasn't long, just a few months ago. I said, "What you got the wrong, Dr. Cooper. There's a Dr. Dan Cooper, who is the team physician for the Dallas Cowboy football team. I thought you got, oh no, recognize your accomplishments. God, we're giving you a lifetime honorary free membership at Dallas County Medical Society and Texas Medical Association." I said, "Thank you, Lord. I appreciate it."
You've had so many opposers through the years. Do you still, at this juncture, do you still face opposition? And if so, what kind of opposition do you face now when it comes to promoting preventative medicine?
Well, it's just getting the message where it should be to the government.
Mm.
Because I said, if you want to change people, you don't get the government to change, you got to change the people. That's the rule I've followed over the years. So I've tried to work from the bottom up, and we've done that. Take, for example, in the book, we talk about fitness graph. That's the program that we have for children. Because you have to accept the fact that a fat child becomes a fat adult. So we had to get fitness gram accepted here in the state of Texas. And this is back in the days when Rick Perry was the governor of Texas. Because I tried to go to Washington and get to accept this concept of getting the people involved, and the concept like when I was on to become Surgeon General back in 2001 because of my long relationship with George W. Bush, and I had sold to sell the aerobics center the highest bidder because of conflict of interest. So I wasn't going to do that.
Oh,
But second
wow.
time,
You
and
would have
then
had to sell the aerobics, your aerobics center if you had been the Surgeon General with George W. Bush?
George W. Bush was
Oh, I didn't realize that you would had to sell your whole
trying to
practice.
sell the program to the
Wow.
was
I thought you just didn't wanna move to DC.
no, because they told me when I went to Washington, they said there'd been 9 bills submitted by members of Congress, what you want to do. So 6 out of 8 bombed out of the subcommittee, 1 died in the House. You're wasting your time in Washington trying to do anything to try to change the way people, children particularly, are involved in the program. Go back to Texas and start from the bottom up. So came back and talked to Rick Perry. And so Rick said, Dad, he said, let's do it. Let's do it. And so I had to go to it. I had to raise money to get the people, to get the 7,500 schools, to get the equipment, to get the fitness gram testing going. And we had to train all the teachers to do the fitness gram test. We got that in. That was in 2008. I had to raise the money, $3.1 million from private sources to do that, what I contributed myself. We started a trend in Texas. In that first session, 8.86 million, that first session from 3rd to 12th grade. And we found the number of tests they could test on the fitness gram test, including the shuttle run, which is 20-meter run for the grade school, the 1 mile run for the half mile or the mile, and then the flex building straight. The more tests they could pass, the better grades they made in school. We know that. What helps the heart helps the brain. We know that. A decrease in absenteeism, those are the top categories of fitness, and a decrease in drug and game problem. Now, what do you want? If you can have those beneficial changes in the kids, why don't you get accepted? We got to accept it. It's been every 2 years, it's been funded in the state of Texas. And we've slowed down the obesity problem in Texas and we improved the aerobic capacity. So we started in Texas, now it's going world. It's going nationwide and worldwide.
So now
Well,
do you go
all the
state by state with this? Do you show, okay, this is what we did in Texas, and you go to another state and you try to get it implemented there?
Yes, that's correct. I went to Georgia and tried to get it implemented with the state legislator there. And I had the complaint from some of the people. I don't want the government involved in my private life, my family life, than they are at the present time. I told them I don't want to either, but you failed miserably. We have obese kids, totally inactive kids, that's setting major problems in the future. If the government doesn't do something, who's going to do it? And
Let me ask you a question about the government, because recently I was in DC with my client for a lobby day, and you've probably been to these lobby days before where you go around to different congressional offices and you end up talking to their team. And in this case, you'll like this. We were trying to get them educated about vitamin D and to, change the vitamin D recommendations for pregnant women. But every representative group we talk to me, and this is just my perspective, it seems like in the government, they're just so far behind all the time. And their focus is like they like the idea, but then the next question is, how much money do you have? Does it really come down to funding? Like you mentioned in Texas, you had to raise money and fund this with the government. Does it really come down to how much money? Do we not do enough of that in natural medicine, whereas pharmaceutical companies put a lot of money into things, so I guess they get more attention on the government side? Or what is the problem?
well, it is. It's frustrating because we know that vitamin D, as you elevate, I take 7,000 units a day, and that takes my blood level up to about 65 to 70, the average American around 20-25. If you get hit with a coronavirus, if you have a low vitamin D, there's 76% you're going to be hospitalized with, a lot of them you will die. And so we also know that vitamin D is fat soluble. And we know the major causes of death of COVID is being over 65 years of age and having people who are obese because vitamin D is fat soluble. But the final study that said it's irreversible, the relationship between vitamin D and counteracting that cytokine storm that causes the change of the virus that makes you go to the lungs and cause pneumonia is irreversible. That relationship came from Israel. That didn't come to the United States. It came from medical school in Israel. So now it's pretty well accepted because the vitamin D level, 150 is toxic. Mine runs about 65 to 70, as I mentioned. But I've had COVID twice. I had an Omicron. I was only quarantined for 5 days. All I had was a headache. At that time, I was 94, 92 years of age. I could have died from it. But I'm convinced of the same thing my wife had. So I can't guarantee you that vitamin D will keep you from having it, but I can almost guarantee you won't die from it. So that's something I've had to get. That's the number two important thing we talk about getting Cooperized. The number one is, of course, your body weight. Let me talk about that for a moment because we're making some mistakes. We're using the body mass index. Go to the internet, type in your height and your weight, you get a body mass index. 18 to 25 is normal. 25 to 30 is overweight. 30 to 35 is obese. And above 35 is morbidly obese. We're about 60% of our population who are obese. A lot more than that or borderline obese. But we know that's number one. But we're looking at the body mass index, which considers the body is a cylinder. And it's not. In most people, you have a pot belly. So we've added to that now. You can go to the body mass index and get the body roundness index. And that measures the circumference of your waist. stand up and get the circumference of your waist through your navel. Now you can get to determine whether it's too much by taking your height in inches, divide it by 1/2. If you're 5 foot, that's 6 inches. So the maximum circumference of your waist should be 30 inches. Use that as a rule of thumb to know where you should lose weight because that's the visceral fat. That's the fat that causes the problem. So number one is the is number one to get your weight under control. Number two is your diet. And I just had that rule of thumb that 5 is fine, 9 is fine. That's going along the Mediterranean diet. Just reading an article in the newspaper today. This woman lived to 117 years of age. She was
Wow.
from San Francisco, and
Wow.
she was born March the 4th, 2005. That's the same birth I had, one in 2005. Mine was 1931. We both have March the 4th. But I
Wow.
moved at 8 years of age over to Spain. I lived to 117 years. But what was she doing? She was enjoying the Mediterranean diet. She had a garden and she ate fresh fruits and vegetables. She had yogurt twice a day. I'm not recommending that. But she exercised. She was a regular walker, doing everything right. She didn't realize being Cooperized because the number three most important point on being Cooperized is get that 30 minutes collective or sustained. Collective or sustained most days per week. That's a dramatic change. When I said my first big aerobics 1968, I said more is better. You're in good shape, but more is better. Then keep doing it. Keep doing it. Well, finally, except you run more than 15 miles a week, you're running for something about the cardiovascular fitness. I come all the way back to say if you just avoid inactivity and you go move up one block on the fitness scale from very poor to four, you get a 6-year increase in longevity and a 58% reduction in decimal causes. All the way out the end, it's only a 9-year increase in longevity and 65%. But 90% of the people will go from category one to category two if they get 30 minutes collective or sustained most days per week. That's 150 minutes per week, which is recommended by the American College of Sports Medicine, American Heart Association, all of the above. I said that years ago. So we're funding by an inch is essential, by a yard is hard. But you only got to go that inch to get the benefits.
I like the messaging. I like the way that you say avoid inactivity because that sounds a lot easier than get active. All I have to do is avoid inactivity, and there's lots of ways I can avoid inactivity. If I'm at my desk, I can stand up, I can move around, during a call.
I
I
say collective. 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, collective.
and I there's one thing you always said in media interviews, and you said it in the book too, but I love this. You always say, "Walk your dog 2 times a day, whether you have
Well,
one or not."
that's right. But next on that list, let's go down to because
Yeah,
of it.
I wanted to ask you, can you for our audience, can you go through how to get Cooperized, the 8 steps? Can you give us the list really quick?
Okay, the next step is eliminate tobacco. Don't use tobacco. If you don't
Mhm,
start, you don't smoke, don't start. That includes vaping too. The next one is alcohol. In the past, we said that women could drink a day, 7 a week, men 2 a day or 14 a week. Study came out a couple of years ago showing a European study and show if men drank 2 a day or 14 a week, they shorten the lifespan by 1.5 for 2 years. We know it does that. It can shorten your lifespan. But the big thing just came out. Beer, wine, or hard liquor, any of that can increase the risk of cancer.
mhm,
That just came out. Cancer, starting with the throat, the larynx, the esophagus, the esophagus, and then the small and then the intestine. But there are 30,000 women, they say, die annually from cancer of the breast because of use of alcohol. So making changes. I don't drink. I never have drank. Well, I would discourage from drinking in general, but if you drink, don't drink more than drink a day. Next on that list is controlling stress. I control stress by starting my day with prayer and Bible study
mhm.
and finishing my way with exercise. Even if that's at best days, I do this 5 days a week. And I go and I recumbent bike because I can't run anymore because of my knee. I broke my leg snow skiing. It wasn't from running my 38,000 miles in 40 years. After 52 years of snow skiing, I fell up in Colorado, got a tibial plateau fracture. Kind of interesting thing, too, I had a MRI scan on both knees. The right knee showed the tibial plateau fracture. The left knee looked like a teenager.
Mm,
I had 38,000 miles on both knees. So don't tell me it causes osteoarthritis of the knees. That's not true. But so I control, at the end of the day, then I'll go through 30 minutes of exercise. Say, I'm doing something unique now, though I'll do it this afternoon. I'm going through a muscle activation technique because catering to that weakness I have in my right leg, I wear a brace on it. My left leg was strong. My right leg, my right quadricep got weak, and I was beginning to be likely to fall. I was having imbalance. And so help me, I'm seeing now a regeneration of
mm.
the nerves and the muscle. I've proven that down my right leg because this muscle activation technique, I go through it an hour twice a week. There's some new technology. I saw this in the international meeting we had here in Dallas this last weekend from Europe, and they have a suit that you can put on that electrically stimulates the nerves, the muscles in your leg. You can do that too. So there's some I was taught that past 50 years of age, you can't generate new muscle because of sarcopenia. You start losing off the subject here for a second. All those people that use the GPL-1 to lose weight, they're losing muscle
You're
mass.
losing muscle. Yes, rapidly,
You better
right?
start taking you better start building up some muscles while you're losing that, or you're not gonna get that muscle back. So
Mhm.
these are things, but then the other way as far as controlling stress is concerned is get enough sleep because you need at least 7 hours of sleep per night, or that's associated with dementia, that's well proven. And then finally, that number 8 is get that examination. You can't have a big exam like we have here. It's not when the people can't afford it, when the people they come in for the exams, they say, "Well, I can't afford it." What'd you pay for the insurance on your car last year?
Mhm.
What'd you pay for insurance on your house last year? You buy a new car, you build a new house, you've got only one body. Your body is unique to design, the most common first symptom of severe underlying heart disease is sudden death. Don't you want to prevent that? Our goal is to prevent heart disease. You can't diagnose it early. We're saving lives here every day, and
And
I have
I think
hundreds
it's
of
even
others.
I think it's even more important now because if you go to just your general practitioner doctor, for whatever they cover with the insurance, they have really cut down the time in the doctor's office so much that there's no way that they would catch anything. I mean, they're going through the standard thing for insurance, but there's no way they're gonna catch everything. So I think now more than ever, it's important to invest in your health and to go see a doctor like yourself that is motivated to help people stay healthy.
But you see, physicians aren't qualified to do it. That's the number one reason. I didn't learn anything in medical school about all the things we do in preventive medicine, school, public health. I don't have time to do it, and I can't be paid for it because insurance won't cover it.
Mhm.
To some extent, they're coming around. They owe me because the people living longer pay more insurance premiums, but they haven't come around. When I was running the Boston Marathon back in 1962 and 63, oh, we had little New Balance shoes. We got a Watertown, Massachusetts. Looked like sandlockers. They were a ripple sole. We all had Achilles tendonitis because you didn't have any heels on. They had they had not a webbing on the front of the shoe to let the blood out. We discovered back in those days. But then what came along? Nike came along, and now it's worldwide. It's one of the largest companies in the world. But they owe me something because went through all those shoes for New Balance shoes. When we get our shoes back those early days, sell on a white piece of paper outlining your foot and send it off to Watertown, Massachusetts. The kids are in charge, or they were in charge of New Balance at that time. Cost $19.95. The pair of shoes now cost $190.
I want to ask you a question about running because I know I mean, a lot of people run now. A lot of people do marathons, but you've been doing this your entire life and career. For people that are interested in marathon running or running, you've done so much research at the Cooper Institute on this. Can you just quickly tell us what form have you found to be the best form for runners? How should they hold their head? Like, what's going to make them win?
Well, one thing, listen to your body. So don't ignore pain. That's the most important thing. And then if you come to the clinic and if everything comes out normal for you, I don't care if you run marathons, ultramarathons, whatever it may be. So have an examination sometime because you may have insidious coronary artery disease. George Bush had 80%, 85% obstruction in LAD when he came through after he come back to Dallas and probably saved his life by picking up and having immediate angioplasty stent. That was about 10 years ago. He has no further problem. So don't die of something stupid. What Todd Whit and I were on the radio for 8.5 years, and our major point was don't do something stupid. Listen to what the science says. Always some quack says, listen to what the science says. And with all these publications we have now with over 700, we've bridged that gap, as I said, between fadism and scientific legitimacy exercise the practice of medicine. And that's the number 3 point in the book. Number 1 in the book is to try to prove your health is your responsibility. You follow these guidelines, you can live a long, healthy like I'm doing. Number 2 is resurrect preventive medicine. We're doing that now. I think with great results too. And number 3, I'm trying to prove that the results with all these publications are too impressive to be ignored. And so we got a listening audience we never had before.
During your career, just as we wrap up, I'm really curious to know who do you consider your mentor? Who opened the doors for you in the beginning? I know your faith is very strong, and I love that part of your story in the book, how you always prayed and how you leaned on God for guidance. Was there a human being that also was a mentor to you, and who was that, and what kinda impact did they have on your career?
Well, I think from a Christian standpoint, the major mentor was Billy Graham, because I appeared, if you know, in the book, I appeared with him in Marketplace Stadium, October 6, 1974, before 225,000 people assembled for that Billy Graham crusade. And you can go to the Billy Graham crusades and bring it up. I talked about the interrelationship between physical and spiritual fitness. And frankly, Graham has now become a very good friend of mine because I've been writing articles, Decision Magazine. I'm finishing up my 5th year. Every other month, I've been providing an article. We've got some excellent, because he has in Decision Magazine, it comes out monthly, but I'm every monthly. There's a section on body and soul. He talks about the soul, I talk about the body. I've had more responses from millennial since reading that magazine than for any other article I've ever published in scientific literature. Billy Graham, Franklin Graham, as far as, here in Dallas, with Bruno Balky, I worked with him. That's the Balky protocol treadmill that we've used all these
Mhm.
years. I learned that when I was training with him, when I was at the School of Aerospace Medicine in San Antonio, 'cause he was worked there at the time. So Bruno Balky. But here in Dallas, there's no question about that the Tata Corporation and Fred Meyer was he graduated number 1 or number 2 in his class from Harvard Business School. And in those early days with all the positions, he gave me financial advice. Because I left the Air Force after 13 years, I didn't have any money. My financial statement was about $10,000. That's all I had. I wanted to borrow 1.6 million to buy this first 8.6 acres of our 30-acre that we have here now. I didn't have any money, and so the Tata Corporation said, "We will fund it for you." And they didn't even
Wow.
charge me any interest. I didn't pay anything until I got my feet on the ground. And Fred Meyer but they're all deceased now except one member, the 3 people. The top 3 have all gone. I'm the only one left of the top 3. But they got me started, got me solid, and now we're very well off here. We've been very, very successful in Dallas. And again, I say praise the Lord.
That's the other thing I really appreciated about your book is Dr. Cooper's book is as much about health and his story, but you're really quite the entrepreneur, Dr. Cooper, and, I can't say that about very many doctors, but a businessman, you have done a remarkable thing. You've taken risk, you've come up against opposition, and you've kept a steady pace. You've done so many remarkable things for, health, and not just here in the US, but globally. Um, and I just wanna thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing some of this with us, and I hope that everybody runs out and get this book because you even have pictures in here.
Oh, yeah.
I love that you have
Yes.
pictures in here. I'm gonna cherish this book forever. Maybe one day I'll get you to sign it if I can come to Dallas and see you.
I wish you would. By the way, another famous Bible verse I follow is shame and poverty come to those who are not disciplined. The key to my success is discipline, and the Lord has provided me to do that. With my weight, my height, a wonderful wife of 66 years, 2 kids, 5 fantastic grandkids. So we've been blessed immeasurably, and I praise the Lord every morning.
I've actually been as I've been reading your book, I've been writing things that really resonate with me, and at the top of my list was how disciplined you are, and so that's actually at the top of my list. So I really appreciate that you've shared this.
I weigh about 155 to 160 right now. I've kept it off now for all these years.
It's amazing. Well, thank you, Dr. Cooper, so much for joining us today. I know you have inspired so many people in your career journey, and you're gonna continue to do so, and I wanna encourage everyone to share this episode so we can get more people exposed and inspired by all the great things that Dr. Cooper has done over his career. And be sure to get a copy of his book, Grow Healthier as You Grow Older, available wherever books are sold. And get Cooperized. You can get the whole list right here in the book, and you can find more about Dr. Cooper. He even has his documentary film on his website, CooperAerobics.com. Thank you again, Dr. Cooper, for being on the show.
My hope and prayer is the viewers of this documentary will live as long and active a life as I'm living in my 95th year. Praise the Lord.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Cooper, and thank you for joining us on this episode of Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and give us a rating or review. Your feedback helps us plan future episodes. I hope you were inspired today to get out there and get moving. Just do anything, just don't be inactive, as Dr. Cooper says. Just move.
Thank you.
And as a bonus, you can join us at an easy box where you can get motivated, hone your communication skills, and binge as much mentorship as you want whenever you need it. Dr. Cooper had mentors. It's great to have mentors and people that open doors for you. The link's going to be in our show notes along with all of our social media handles and websites. So let's stay connected. And Dr. Cooper, any parting words for us?
Well, I hope that they've enjoyed the life I have. And just looking back in retrospect, the decisions I made were decisions I wanted to make, but somebody other than me was guiding my life.
And that is so clear to me. Um, I hope I don't cry at the end because this has been the most special interview I've ever done. So I'm so
Thank
glad I had the opportunity to do it with you. Thank you, Dr. Cooper.
thank you very much.
All right.